Do you feel stuck and you want to know why you're stuck? And do you ever feel like you just have no idea on how you're going to achieve your goals and dreams and just make it all work? If that's you, in this video, I'm going to outline a simple 3-step framework and 9 specific things which are probably causing you to be in the situation you're in right now. Feeling foggy, feeling stuck, you feel like you've lost your confidence and your momentum. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply outline all the things which have helped me bounce back from every single time I've fallen into many ruts, funks and depressions. So hopefully by just sharing my stories, my analogies, my insights, and also what I use to help my clients get out of their funks and depressions, maybe this can help you too. Now, I'm going to walk you through my framework on this iPad here. I'm going to do some drawings and analogies to help you follow along. But I just want to let you know that I've also got a free resource for you if you're feeling stuck. The link is in the description. So right now, you are probably feeling stuck. And essentially, there's 3 reasons why you're probably feeling stuck. So the first one I found, based on my personal experiences, is my mentality. So there were things going on in my psychology, the way I saw the world, which were holding me back. It was making me play small and it was keeping me stuck. So that's the first thing. The second thing is your identity. This is more so, rather than seeing the world, this is more so how you actually see yourself. Most likely, you're not really crystal clear in terms of who you are, or maybe what's most important to you, what your values are, or maybe you're just not living in alignment with that. You know what you'd love to do with your life, you know maybe what you're good at, where you excel, but you're not quite doing that. And potentially you're comparing yourself to other people, maybe you have these limiting beliefs which you feel are holding you back. Beliefs about yourself in terms of maybe like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, or intelligent enough, or whatever. So if you're feeling stuck, it's because of how you probably are seeing yourself right now in this current state. The third thing is probably clarity. What I mean by that is, let me unpack this a little bit more. So specifically when I talk about clarity, you are probably feeling quite foggy right now in this moment. And so when it comes to things you want to do with your life, like what I would love to do with my life, you probably have like a good idea. There's probably some ambitions, but maybe you don't know what to do next. Like, what's the most important thing to do now? Or maybe you've got a load of stuff going on, like there's so many choices to choose from and what to decide on. There's probably some things which you're kind of clear, but it's not crystal clear. So most likely, if you're feeling stuck, you're probably foggy. You've not got that clarity. When I talk about mentality, I don't mean like, David Goggins, like you don't have a strong enough mindset and you don't have discipline and you're not consistent. I'm not talking about that. Specifically, when I talk about mentality, what I mean is you're probably mentally blocked. I'm going to get through the common things which I found with me when I've been stuck and what were causing my mental blocks, and also when I work with individuals on a one-on-one basis, the 3 most common ones in terms of what causes them to block themselves. It's sort of like the reason why you're probably stuck is because you're holding yourself back, right? Like there's been so many times in my life where I can't really blame anyone but me. I know I'm to blame, but I don't know why I am holding myself back. Like I don't know what is going on. And it's taken me years and it's taken me many trial runs in terms of doing good, falling back and falling into these ruts and depressive periods and beating myself up and feeling stuck to really learn and understand there's been certain things behind the scenes in my mind which has been blocking me from taking the amount of action I need to get the results I want in my life. So most likely with you, I digress. If you're feeling stuck, you're mentally blocked. There's things blocking you from showing up in the world in terms of taking action to make your dreams come true. And then in terms of your identity, what I mean by that is you are minimizing. Most likely you are playing small. The way you see yourself is limited, and most likely you're probably on your Instagram, your TikTok, your YouTube, and there's all these people who are talking about how amazing they're doing, how much money they're making, and you're probably comparing yourself, and they're taking all this bold action and you're not. They have these amazing results, you don't, and the comparison makes you feel like shit. And then you limit yourself because, well, I'm not doing those things and I can't do those things, I'm not good enough or whatever. And so just the way you see yourself is limited because of the comparison and the beliefs, but also probably because, let's just use an analogy. There's a quote from Einstein: "You're a fish." okay? And you are comparing yourself to these people online, and let's just say they are cats. And the cats are really good at running around, catching mice, maybe climbing some trees or whatever, right? And you want to do that. You are beating yourself up because you should be chasing mice and you should be climbing trees and running around like a cat does, and you're beating yourself because you're not. In truth of the matter is, you're not a cat, but you're trying to be a cat, and you're beating yourself up because you're not born to do that stuff, but you're expecting yourself to, and you're not honoring your gifts and genius in terms of what you do really well and what you're born to do. Which, in this analogy, if you're a fish, is you're really fucking good at swimming. But the thing is with the identity, the piece there is you're minimizing yourself because you're simply not being yourself, and you're comparing yourself trying to be someone you're not. So if this resonates, and this is like, that's me, then basically here's what you need to do to get unstuck. So the first one, when it comes to your mentality, is you need to break through those mental blocks. But specifically, again, it's not like the discipline and stuff, because you have discipline, but most likely when it comes to your mentality, why you feel stuck is you probably have these negative associations with doing certain things, and potentially that's what's keeping you stuck. Is there's like a block, there's a barrier, and there's this negative associations, which I'm going to get into, which you don't want to maybe experience, which is typically like the failures, or there's like the fears and stuff like that, where you actually would prefer, and this is you say you want these certain goals and dreams, right? Consciously, but unconsciously, what you probably want more is to not experience failure, to not experience getting criticized or judged or hated or whatever, right? You have these unconscious motives, they're called, which is deeply subconscious, and you'd much rather avoid those than seek the pleasure, which is the goals you're trying to achieve. And so a big thing is breaking through those mental blocks which are holding you back, having breakthroughs. When it comes to actually minimizing yourself, one thing we basically want to do is basically align yourself. We want to basically align you with who you are. You know, the analogy I just used is you are a fish. So we want to help you realize, well, what are the things you value? What are the things that make you great? What are the things you excel at and you do better than the other people who you compare yourself to? And basically stop comparing yourself and realizing they don't have it so great. You actually have it pretty good. And actually break those stories and the way you see yourself, because those limiting beliefs, you think they are true, but they're not the truth. And so what we want to do is, rather than start minimizing yourself and playing small, it's actually basically, when I mean alignment, what I want to basically put forward is actually being authentic. Did I spell that right? Authentic. Yeah. And this is just basically helping you see yourself for who you actually are. Because you know, if you're watching this far, you know you have potential inside you. It's like a little glimmer of light, and that's the potential you're capable of doing, but you're in a cave and it's very, very dark. But the key to getting unstuck is really just aligning yourself with being yourself. Probably right now you probably don't really love yourself very much. You're probably beating yourself up and down yourself and have these negative thoughts and self-talk. I've been there. I get that. But the truth is, you probably don't love yourself right now because you are not actually being yourself. You don't love yourself because you're not being yourself, and you're not doing those things which you love, and you're not being yourself because you probably don't know yourself. And so getting clear on who you are, what makes you tick, and aligning yourself with that, and just focusing on that and not the other people, that's where you're going to find the beliefs dissolve, and the comparison game just goes out the window, and you start really flourishing and you get unstuck. I like to talk and waffle and rant, so let's bring it back. I digress. So if you are feeling foggy right now, then what you need to do is you need to also get crystal clear. If you basically broke through your mental blocks, and if you basically aligned yourself with your highest values and you start being authentic, like you start actually being yourself, not trying to be someone you're not, and you get crystal clear on what it is you'd love to do with your life, and get a sense of what your purpose is, what you'd love to dedicate your life to, and map out exactly how you're going to make that happen. If you start aligning yourself and start figuring out exactly how to get what you want, and break through all those blocks, those mental barriers in your way, you're unstoppable. And that's how you get unstuck. So I've been basically dropping little hints or mainly just riffing on what the specifics are, but let's really get into it. So the three biggest mental blocks I've found is, well, first of all, it's failure. And by the way, before I get into it, just a reminder, all these 9 steps I'm going to go through, it's in the link in the description. Back to this, one of the biggest things I found personally with myself is what was holding me back was I experienced these failures, these setbacks. And really what it was is I had these expectations in terms of I was going to make all this money and I was going to do so well, like in my coaching or when I did like trading or sales or whatever, all these times in my life. And I had these expectations of how fast I was going to get it or how easy it was going to be. And basically my reality did not match my expectations. And in my perception, I failed, and that hurt. And when that hurt because my expectations weren't met, I basically got discouraged. And then when I go through future situations and I still have this baggage there, sometimes that can be a block. So I have an association with pain. I don't want to fail again. I don't want to experience that again. And rather than going after this thing I want to do, I'd rather avoid the failure. So if you are feeling mentally blocked right now, if you're feeling stuck, one thing is probably because you have a fear of failure. You probably have these negative associations because you probably failed in the past. You don't want to experience that again. So that is one thing which could be keeping you mentally blocked and something you might want to consider breaking through to help you get unstuck. Another thing which potentially is blocking you mentally are your fears. So, for example, with me on YouTube, there was a guy who I asked a question, he was doing YouTube videos. I was like, I really want to do that. I was 18 years old. And I really admired him for that. And the biggest thing which was holding me back at the time when I was 18 was I wanted to do that. That was what my heart was calling me to do, right? And it's taken me 12 years to get to this point now. But the point is, the biggest thing which was mentally blocking me from actually pursuing YouTube and doing this was I really cared about the opinions of others. I actually had massive fears about if I posted videos, what are they going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? Are they going to hate me, judge me, criticize me? And I had these fears which would hold me back, and it literally held me back for about 8 years. So a big thing, this was with me, but a really common thing with a lot of people is they have these fears which they perceive in the future something negative is going to happen to them. And so if you're feeling stuck, is there something you're scared might happen if you do a certain action, if you complete a certain project, or if you achieve a certain level of success, you feel something negative is going to happen to you? That could be something which is blocking you. And then the third thing is which not necessarily blocks people, but sometimes can just knock people back, is just like life events. And so what I mean by that is just like when shit happens in life, you might be really focused on your thing, you really want to do whatever, but then just life happens. Really common ones, like literally I'm working with a client right now who has just gone through a breakup, and they were so focused on their goals and dreams, they got into a relationship, they kind of got a little bit distracted from their goals and dreams and super focused on the relationship, and basically they had a breakup. The individual actually separated with my client and rocked him. So sometimes we can have separations, or sometimes the partner cheats on us, or sometimes we could have a death in the family, and we're literally experiencing grief. There can be drama, or we can lose money, or something big happens. I had a client who was a trader, wanted to be a full-time financial trader, but they had 2 big events what happened in their life which knocked their confidence, and from then they really struggled to recover until we identified what was going on. Specifically, partner actually cheated on him at the time, but also in the trading education company he was in, he actually got scammed. The company scammed him like £7 million or something like that, and he obviously got a lot of distrust for people from then on, and lost a lot of confidence in terms of trading from that. So sometimes life can just happen, and things can happen which can set us back and just really knock our confidence, and we just sort of stay stuck in that loop, that minimized state, and some people just don't recover, hence why they get stuck. So that's basically the mentality piece. Is the biggest things I found with myself and also other people is things which are blocking you is probably just perceiving failure and basically being discouraged from previous setbacks in life and previous failures, things not going the way you want it to. So there's sort of like this belief of like, well, what's the point? What's the point in doing all this stuff? I'm going to fail again, right? Which kind of links into the identity piece, because yes, there's fears, and yes, there's also life events, but I've kind of already talked about it. But with the identity, in terms of aligning with that or being authentic, one thing which is basically causing you to minimize yourself, I talked about before, is the limiting beliefs. I'm not going to fill it in, so I'll just say limiting beliefs. And so sometimes on the things which happen to you, so let's say the failures, well, you can start creating these stories around how you see yourself, your identity. So I failed in the past, and because I failed and I didn't achieve my goals, and because I was X, Y, Z, whatever you're saying, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough to try this again and make this work. You know what stories you're probably saying to yourself a lot. I've had that. My big one, when it came to failure, I just perceived that I failed again and again and again. I kept trying and nothing's working. I'm not getting what I wanted. You know, in terms of the expectation I had for myself, I kept falling short. And my limiting belief was, what's the point? That was the biggest thing. I just didn't see the point in trying, because I perceived that I was putting in so much effort and I wasn't getting anything back. I couldn't appreciate what I was getting. I was just focused on it being in a certain way, which was like the money and the clients and, you know, the results which everyone wants, right? So the big one in terms of your identity is just the beliefs you hold around yourself, the stories you tell around yourself, which is probably keeping you stuck. The next one is comparing yourself. Imagine you're like on a desert island, and imagine you were kind of born there and there was no one existed but you, and you just focused on collecting all the coconuts you could find. And it doesn't matter how many you get, you just focus on surviving. Cool. You're just doing what you need to do to get by. But then imagine there's you and this person comes on the island and you're like, great, cool. Yeah, there's another person here. And then you start collecting coconuts, but then you come back one day, you come to like the campsite and you've brought like 5 coconuts. You found 5 coconuts and you're like, that's my usual, feel pretty good about that. But this person on the island brings in 10. Now, before, when it was just you on your own, you probably weren't really feeling shit about yourself. You don't really feel shit if you're not really eating. But you're not sort of like judging yourself or beating yourself up or anything like that, most likely, because it's just you. But as soon as this other person comes into the mix and you perceive they're doing better than you, then what you can do is you can start getting really upset by that and emotional, because you perceive they're doing better than you. And that's when you can start minimizing yourself, because you have them here, they're doing better than you, and that just immediately puts you below them in your perception. And that's when you're minimizing yourself. You're too humble to admit that you've got some pretty cool talents, but you think they're better than you. And some people, they compare themselves so much. I've had this so much in my life. We compare ourselves so much that it changed the way we see ourselves. And we just think, I could never be like them. They're so smart, that they've got the good looks, or they've got all the money, and I don't have that. So therefore, I have no hope in terms of getting what they've got. And by us comparing ourselves to others, that can really keep us playing small. We minimize, and it keeps us stuck. So that's a really big one, which I've really struggled with. And I had a client who, this is like a double whammy, came to me and somehow they basically just said in the conversation, it just slipped out like, I'm not good enough. I was like, let's explore that. Because if you don't think you're good enough, you're probably not even going to try doing the things you want to do to get what you want. And we looked at, where does that belief come from? You're not good enough according to who? You obviously got that belief because you think someone is better than you. And you're basically saying, when you say I'm not good enough, it's I'm not as good as, and actually looked and it was their brother. So the comparing can actually create the limiting beliefs as well. They kind of, the thing with this model is sometimes certain things can happen. Like for me, I had the failures and setbacks and things weren't going the way I wanted it to, but then that actually impacted my identity. And sometimes it can be like a vicious cycle. These things can feed into each other, which is not great. And it can be a slippery slope down, which, trust me, I've been in before. The biggest thing, the last thing, and saving the best to last in terms of identity, the biggest thing to do to help you actually align yourself and basically start being authentic and stop minimizing yourself, stop playing small, is its values. And that's the analogy I used earlier with the fish. Most likely you're one of 2 types of people when it comes to values specifically. The quote I use, it's from the Delphic Oracle in Greece, something like that. And it's just very simple. Know yourself, be yourself, love yourself. And so right now, if you're feeling stuck, you're probably beating yourself up and you're not loving yourself. Most likely it's because you just simply don't know yourself and you're not honoring who you are because you don't know who you are. You don't know what's important to you. So figuring out what your values are is really important if that's you. But if you kind of know what's important to you, then the second thing is you're not being yourself, as in you know what's important to you, you know what lights you up, but you're not doing it. And that is why you are feeling stuck, because you're just not being yourself. It's like you're the fish and you know you're good at swimming, but you're still trying to chase mice and climb trees and run around like a cat. That is the biggest thing I found. And when you start really understanding who you are, what makes you tick, and you start prioritizing that, trying to fill up as much as your day as possible with doing what you do best, what lights you up, that is where you are just so busy, you're not really comparing yourself anymore to others because you're focused on being you. And when you are living in alignment with your highest values, that is where you are most empowered. That is where you're most confident, most certain. And when you're not doing your highest values, when you're living in your lower values, that's where you're basically limiting yourself. So I find when you understand who you are, you know thyself, and you are living in alignment with that, you're prioritizing that, you're trying to fill up as much as your day and your week and your life with doing things which light you up, which you're good at, which you value, you love yourself more. And that's where you're not minimizing and you're not really stuck. That's part of the identity piece, those three things. And then lastly, when it comes to clarity, there's three things. So 3 things to really focus on is what? Get really crystal clear on what you would love to do with your life, what you would really love to achieve. And when it comes to your goals, it's, everyone's heard of SMART goals: specific, measurable. People say achievable, but really you want it to be aligned with your values. That's really important. But make sure your goals are specific, measurable, aligned, realistic. That's a big one. Making sure your goals are realistic. The amount of people I've worked with, especially traders, they're desperate. They want to get out of the jobs they hate. They set these massive goals that they want to be consistently profitable traders, and they have no idea how to trade. They just come into it and they think they can do it in 6 months. It's insane. But yeah, make sure you're being real with yourself and make sure you're putting a time frame on it. So if you've got these vague goals in your head, take some time to really clarify on what you want to really pursue. Get clear on that. And maybe what you want to do, there's all these different things and you're overwhelmed. Kind of like when you are at a restaurant and you see a menu and there's like 60, 70, 80 things on the menu. I fucking can't choose a thing. It takes me like 15 minutes to choose from the menu. And that's kind of like maybe what's really holding you back, keeping you stuck, is there's all these options and you can't decide. So sometimes it just comes down to actually deciding. And the root word of decide, it's called etymology, which is the origin of words. Decide, the root of that means to cut off. So sometimes you just need to make the decision of what are you not going to do. And sometimes just by being, what would I love to do? What would I not love to do? And start honing that down. That can help you just start taking those actions because you know what you've committed to and you know what you're not going to do. So in terms of getting crystal clear, get crystal clear on what the goals are, what you're going to do with your life, or what you're going to do next. What's the thing to focus on? Next thing is why. Get really crystal clear on your why. One thing I've found is when there's these certain goals I've set and they weren't aligned to my values, I found because it wasn't important enough to me, I didn't have a big enough reason why I should do all these things, these actions to get the goal. Because really the goal wasn't important enough to me. And the thing is, because I didn't have a big enough reason why, essentially I required external motivation. I needed people to motivate me in terms of give me rewards or punishments to do the things which I didn't really want to do. And so with your why, the more you can get clear on what your why is, what your purpose is for doing whatever it is you would love to do, when you are clear on the why behind it, and that is so meaningful for you that it literally brings you tears of gratitude, tears of inspiration. If you don't have a why, a purpose, a mission, a vision, then that's when you're going to need the external motivation. And when you don't have that motivation, let's say if you're living on your own, there's no one to push you, then that's why you're probably stuck, because you're trying to do something which isn't important enough to you. There's a quote, one of my favorite quotes is, when the why is big enough, the hows will take care of itself. So if you're stuck, maybe you just don't have a big enough reason why you should pursue whatever it is you want to pursue. And so getting really clear on who you are, what's important to you, what you'd love to dedicate your life to, or your goals to, focus on for the next year or quarter or whatever, make sure it really lights you up. And then once you've got that, or if that's something which is maybe blocking you, another thing which we want to do is get really clear on the how. What may be for you right now is you may have a good idea on what you want, and you may perceive it to be really important to you, and you've got a decent reason why, like I want to retire my parents or feed my kids, or I want to quit my job or whatever. You may feel like you've got a good why, but what you're probably doing is you haven't got a very clear A to Z plan. And potentially what you're probably doing is you've got this really big goal in your head, like I want to earn 10K a month, or I want to be this, and it's probably going to take a while for you to get there in terms of time, but also in terms of skills and knowledge you've got to acquire first. But that goal is like, let's just use the analogy of an elephant. It's a really big goal in your head, and that's massive, and you're kind of expecting yourself to eat a whole elephant in one go. And so when I talk about how, specifically what I mean is getting really clear on your plan, getting a plan together and figuring out and mapping out exactly what you need to work on, exactly what the projects, the tasks, and potentially even chunking it down so you know exactly what to do on a day-to-day basis. Because when you have crystal clear clarity on exactly what to do, step by step by step by step, and you can go, okay, I know what's going to get me from A to B, and then from B to C, C to D, bang, 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 all the way to Z. If you have crystal clear clarity on that, you know what you want is important to you, you know why you want it, and you know exactly how to go and get it, you're crystal clear. And then to kind of bring it home, if you are crystal clear, you know what you want, why you want it, and how to get it. If you are basically aligned with your highest values, you know what's important to you, and you're prioritizing that, and you're focusing on that, and you're not on Instagram distracted, and you're not comparing yourself to others and focusing on other people's races, you're focused on your own race, you're not going to be limiting yourself. Potentially, if you do got some really deep-seated limiting beliefs, then it's looking at reframing that and breaking those limiting beliefs so you can actually start seeing yourself honestly and seeing yourself as a human being who's not just a small little thing and woe is me, because you're better than that. Like, who you are right now feels really true for you right now in this moment. It's not the truth. It's just your perception of your identity, which is just lies. You know, it's just because of how you're feeling, but it's not true. You know that you can achieve great things, but it's just the way you see yourself. So it's just reframing those beliefs. But if you align your identity, you're crystal clear, and then all these little things, these little roadblocks in your mind, you know, like I said, the failures for me, or potentially you've got some fears of losing money, losing friends, losing family, respective loved ones, maybe losing health, maybe you know, I don't want to hustle and grind and then I burn out like what happened before, or whatever. And if maybe there's these things which happen in your life and which has set back your confidence, if you start working through all these things, I can guarantee you, if you did all of these things, you're not going to be stuck. If anything, you're going to be not unstuck, you're going to be unstoppable. And you're going to be the best version of yourself, which you know is deep down inside of you. It's just knowing how to bring that out, which I found when I've got all these things on point. And by the way, I'm making this video and I'm not saying I have all these things figured out and I do these all the time. You know, there's times where I fall into a little bit of a funk, or I feel stuck. Right now with social media, I've not posted in a while, and I realized, you know, because I was procrastinating, and I looked and I was like, okay, well, is it a mentality, identity, or clarity thing? And part of it was fears. I had some fears about actually producing content after a little while, but also I realized like there was so many steps which I hadn't mapped out, and so I wasn't really clear on the how with social media. By making this video, I'm not trying to say like I'm a guru and I do all these things and my life's great. Fuck no, because the truth is sometimes life's great and sometimes it's not so great. We fall into these highs and lows, and everybody gets stuck from time to time. But you don't want to stay stuck for too long, right? And you don't want the stuckness to feel like a spiral and you're spiraling down out of control, because I've been there. There's nothing wrong with that. It happens, and I'm grateful it happened to me because I feel really inspired to help people like you. But it's not an inspiring place to be, and there's so much more you can do in your life when you're not in that state. I guarantee you, if you're watching this and maybe you're a little bit overwhelmed, maybe I've overwhelmed you in terms of, oh my God, where do I start? It's not like you have to do all of these things. It's just identifying, probably watching this, there was one thing at least which probably really resonated with you. And it's just starting with working on that and focusing on that. Because when people are stuck, they don't know why they're stuck. And hopefully if you've watched this far, you understand potentially what has been contributing for you to feel the way you're feeling. But then breaking it down into these 9 little areas, you can identify what specifically is impacting you the most. And if you focus on that and resolve that, that's probably going to help you with getting unstuck. And if you start working towards doing all of these things, I can guarantee you're going to be in a better place than you are now. So that's the video. And so if you've got any questions about this, or if you'd like me to make videos specifically about maybe any one of these areas in terms of, well, how do I, stop comparing myself, or how do I overcome my fears, then let me know. Just put comments down in the video below. And just as a one last thing, I've made that free tool for you. So this whole framework I've made, there's a free tool. You just go in the link in the description. I think you just put in your name and your email address, and you've got this tool for life. So that's the video. If you like the video, give it a like. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.